These smiles. Good morning, everyone. Happy Thankful Thursday. Look who I have here. And look, in a different place, right? Well, Erin and I will explain that in a little while. We're just, we'll let a few of you more get on. And of course, we're just doing a couple little setups at the end here. I'm going to play a little more Trey Mortimer right here. And actually, this DJ who I met at a car show in Hoffman Estates, Illinois, he played at Heatwave this past weekend in Douglas Park, Chicago, which had others like Tiesto and Yellow Claw and some really cool acts, right? So this guy's a badass, and I appreciate that he lets us use his music. So let's throw a little bit of that on there in the background. Of course, I can't really hear it because we don't have headphones on. I see we got some comments coming in, which is super cool. And Erin, how you feeling this morning?
I'm feeling good. Yeah.
Erin showed up with a smile. I changed our plans yesterday because we normally do this out of the Mark Allen Realty office. And I was like, hey, our internet, Comcast says they're going to be working on it. So why don't you just come by my loft and we'll do it right there. So,
no problem.
Yeah, she was super cool about it. So yeah, we'll wait till a few more get in here. Let's take a look at some of the comments. All right, we got YouTube. Thanks, Dave, for a great start to Thursday. Thank you, Erin, for joining in today. I'm really looking forward to listening in. Thank you, Desert, and love the change of scenery, says Stephanie. Super cool. Tyler, T-Bone Hawk, how are you, brother? Good to see you, too. And I just wanted to thank everybody for really the encouragement to play big, really the encouragement. You encouraged me to live beyond default, and it's just been such a cool journey this last year, this last 5 years. My YouTube channel is growing. I'm getting tons of content. I'm getting tons of comments, and then I get to meet really cool people like Erin Attere. Did I pronounce that right?
Yeah, perfect. Yes.
I only had to practice it like 3 times, right? So, Erin, where did we even meet?
Yeah, we were just talking about this. I don't even remember. Networking events, like, I don't even know. I'm glad we crossed paths.
Yeah. Well, I think the last time I know was at Engaging Speakers, is where we were at. And then the time before that, I don't even know where we met, right? And then when I asked Erin to be on the show, it was just because about like her vibe and her presentation that she did in Engaging Speakers, which we'll talk a little bit more about that. And then the other thing was, it was funny because I just said, yeah, why don't you come on the live stream? She's like, oh, well, I live close by. And I had no idea. So it really just worked out like logistically, but energetically, like you're going to draw in. We talk about this all the time, right? Like who you surround yourself with is who you become. So that's what this is all about, like building that community and really surrounding ourselves with people that will love us for who we are and encourage us to be who we want to become. And that's super, super important, right? Like enabling, coddling, right? There's a time and a place to, of course, have compassion when somebody needs it. But we all know that when it becomes a broken record and it just becomes a pattern, like we're not really serving that person. So super cool to have Erin here. And
Dave, I just had a Dove chocolate. Sometimes you get the best advice from the most random places in the universe, right? A Dove chocolate said, your vibe attracts your tribe. And that is so true, right? Like who you surround yourself with, all those things you just mentioned. So I love it.
Your vibe attracts your tribe.
Yeah.
On that note, we're going to kick it off. Welcome to this episode of Live Beyond Default LiveStream. It's episode number 28. My name is Dave. This is Erin. And we are here to give you your weekly dose of personal growth. I can't believe that it's episode number 28. I've actually surpassed my episodes on my podcast days from 2010 to 2012 because I only had 27 episodes. So now that I'm at 28, like this is a big milestone for me. And with Erin here today, she's got a lot of cool things to talk about. We're going to be discussing living a life of design. Think of that, right? Intentionally creating greater purpose and joy through small actions, which is something that we talk about all the time, right? Like this plant right here, I don't just like douse it with a ton of water once a month. I give it little bits of water every single week without overwatering it, but then it gets progress, and grows. Don't you love that plant? We got the 2 blue chairs. We got Bob Marley. We got the plant in between us. It's like, it's a little bit comfy right here. So as always, you'll love the conversation, leadership takeaways, and fun with purpose when you're watching Live Beyond Default LiveStream. If you are at your desk and it's on in the background, thank you. Perhaps you're on the treadmill. Maybe you're driving in the car, or maybe you are watching the replay. And as always, we just want to say thank you for being here. And we got a lot of people on today. We've got lots of LinkedIn users that sometimes people's names don't come through. Carolyn, thanks for being on. Love Carolyn Litton. Just met her like in the last 2 weeks, and she's super badass. Jim Idstein, thank you so much. Katie Bergansky Frank, KB, good morning, and it's already a great day to have a great day. Oh, I love it. Lisa Marabelli, morning, everyone. Thank you, Lisa, for showing up. You are super cool, and thank you. I've known Lisa for years. Carolyn says, congratulations on my 28th episode. And Mohammed, good morning. You both rock stars. You are the rock star, my friend. So thanks for all the LinkedIn and YouTube peeps that are joining us today. And all right. So Erin, what about this last week? Any significant events?
Absolutely, Dave. So I'm a recovering perfectionist, and 2022, I decided right now, I'm going to take action before I think I'm ready. I'm just going to say yes to things that are outside of my comfort zone and just go. And so I was invited to speak at a private event on Friday without necessarily being all buttoned up, having all the things. I said, you know what? Yes, I'm going to do it. And so now I'm excited to jump in. I have this amazing opportunity, and that was pretty big.
Now, did this happen already, or is it this Friday?
It's tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
It's tomorrow. So a couple days notice, and I decided I'm working on my brave muscle this year, and so I decided to go all in, and I'm just really thankful for the opportunity. So,
are we working on our brave muscles? That is a really good one. I never even thought of that, right? Yes. And again, because we are in a different studio, you just let me know if it doesn't sound good and I need to turn up the mic or whatever. You guys know, you check in with me if something's not working well. But so in this case, do you think it's going to be like a ready, fire, aim situation, or did you already have stuff prepped from before?
I had some stuff prepped from before, but sometimes, I think it's work for me to just go in without something polished and ready to go. And so I'm approaching this as an amazing opportunity. Obviously, I'm going to do my best. I've got some things, but I also want to tailor it. I like to customize things depending on the audience, right? I want to make sure that I'm connecting with them and really offering value and bringing something that people can walk away with and like get into action immediately, right? We've all been to conferences or places where you hear something and you're like, philosophically, that sounds great, but like, how am I going to like incorporate that into my life? And so I'm really excited to offer value and, share what I am passionate about speaking about for tomorrow.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love that Erin comes from a place of giving. And when you think about that, like, what's in it for me, right? I think about this live stream every single week, and I always put myself in the listener shoes, like you put yourself in your audience's shoes. Like, what are we always asking? What's in it for me? Right? Why are we watching this? Why are we listening to this? Right? We have 168 hours each week, and we've talked about this many times before, right? Do you want to spend time, or do you want to share time or invest in time, right? I would prefer to invest in myself while listening or watching Erin speak. I would prefer to invest time while I'm listening to Tony Robbins' Awaken the Giant Within. I just started re-listening to that, and it's so funny because you listen to that audiobook and he talks about the tapes.
Yeah.
Because they were tapes.
Old school, yeah.
It's like OG Tony Robinson, but it's so good. That Awaken the Giant Within is like the foundational, right? It's like a Think and Grow Rich or How to Win Friends and Influence People, like really cool stuff.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I love it. It's super cool. And I love that you had that opportunity. And what do you think like led up to that opportunity for you tomorrow? Like, how do you think you attracted that, right? Luck equals prep meets opportunity, right? So what was the prep that you did and how did that opportunity arise? I'm super curious.
Yeah. So Dave, it's so funny. I was never really woo in my life before, right? But I feel like in this past year, having transitioned from corporate into my own entrepreneurship, into my passion, I'm just really thinking through and bringing things into my life. And I decided recently that I'm, within a couple weeks ago, that I need to start doing more speaking. I need to get out there and share what I'm passionate about, being on podcasts, being on these things. And once you kind of commit and put something out into the universe, as crazy as that sounds, I think, and you tell people about that, you share about that, then it becomes more top of mind. So someone invited me into this opportunity, knowing that, hey, that's kind of on this path that she's on. So I feel like in a way I kind of created it, knowing that this is my way to grow our impact with my company. And so it just kind of put something out there and it comes back to you. So
I like that. Those are words to live by. Those are words to learn by, right?
Yeah.
And it does make a difference. Like not only what you're putting out there and combining that with the actual doing, right? I like to say it's like the being versus the doing, or the being and the doing, right? Combining both of those in our lives. Like I know a bunch of creative people, me at times, I can't fight my way out of a paper bag, right? You have these great ideas, but really I had this conversation with somebody yesterday. If we have these great ideas, or we have this great music or this great talent, and we're not applying it, we're not sharing it, we're not giving it as a gift to the world and to the marketplace, it's almost like the gift is not really there.
Absolutely.
Because you're not doing anything with it. So that's why we encourage others, right? Like take that first step in whatever you're looking to do or that you love to do, right? Recently I met a client and he loves dancing. He belongs to a dance studio and he teaches people dancing. Yeah. And he's going back and forth on being able to make money, and he doesn't make much money doing that, but that's what he loves to do. So we all go through that. Absolutely. At times. And I know that you made a big transition too, which we will bring up. So again, I wanted to thank you for joining us. And if you are just joining us, we are on episode 28 of Live Beyond Default LiveStream. I'm here with Erin. My name's Dave. And if you're watching the replay, thank you for that too. Please like and share and send to all your friends. Here we got something here from Brandon. It says, it's great to customize products and solutions to our customers. Yes. It's also nice touch with the chair and conversations. Yeah. I was looking at how we look in here. And I was kind of thinking like, wow, this isn't a bad background with Bob Marley there. And we got a little bit of lighting stuff, but whatever. Christy Allison, thank you for joining us. Look at that. More and more people are jumping on. So thank you again. Cool. So this last week, there's been a lot of shifts and a lot of transitions going on in my life, not just in the spiritual realm or the financial realm, right? But also in the career realm. So it's really been a challenge for me to focus on the process and not be always outcome dependent.
Yes.
And recognizing that as long as I'm focused on that process, I'm going to always move forward. It might not always be perfect, which we're not looking for. But sometimes I'm learning to love the small wins, right? I don't have to have this up here yet, right? It's a small win at a time. Getting to 100 YouTube subscribers was a small win, right? But then again, it's not all about the validation, right? And people liking me and clicking the like button, like it's separating from that. So I've had numerous areas where I've just realized back to the processes. That's what got me where I am today. And that's what's going to keep on moving me forward. So
I love that, Dave. And I think that's so important because especially when you dream big, and I know you've got big visions, if you focus on the gap, right, it's overwhelming, but you take these steps and these steps and these steps, and you ultimately get where you're going. I love it.
Yeah. So thank you. Because I don't even know what I just said there. It was like a flow state, right?
Deep. It was deep.
I have no idea. I don't even know what I said. And Christy's saying, say that louder. Yeah, I have no clue. So with you, Erin, like, I know that we've both been through transitions in our careers and in our lives. And I'd love to hear a little bit about yours. And I'd love for you to share the audience, or as I used to say with my niece, I'd be like, tell the audience why you like to dance in like the videos. I'd say it real loud because she's like 7, right? But the point is, share with us like what transition you went through, right? We all know about this great resignation, which is a lame term. Lame, that's a little below the line. I apologize. Let's call it the great realization, because so many of us realized that like we weren't happy with what we were doing, right? These blue chairs are very significant for me because when lockdown happened, Erin knows I have no TV up here. Yeah. I had nothing here. It was just me alone sitting on these blue chairs, like thinking about life, right? Yeah. But so what I want to hear is I want Erin to share like the self-reflection and I want you all to think about yours and where you are, whether it's in a relationship with somebody else, whether it's a relationship with yourself, and whether it's in your work situation and your career situation. Like, where are you all now? Because I know Erin's got a story about that.
I love that. Love it. You know, Dave, I just want to say thank you so much. It's such an honor to be here. And I love what you're creating, because I think one of the biggest challenges we face today is just living in default. And I love that we've had this, you know, awakening, as you mentioned it, right, with the pandemic, and really tapping into like what we want to create in our lives and what brings us joy and what are our true values. And so I think it's such an important message that I discovered too. So I used to be a nonprofit, and my husband and I were both in nonprofit. And Dave, we learned someone's got to make a profit. Did you know that? You got to pay some bills. So,
that's funny.
Yeah. So we love doing good in the world, but you also want to make a life for yourself too. So I was in corporate America for 15 years, you know, working my way up the ladder, doing the things that look good on paper, earning 6 figures, you know, to provide for my family. But I was also missing 3 of my oldest daughter's first 4 birthdays. You know, I was, mama guilt is real. And so when you're missing your kids, mama guilt. Yeah. Oh my God, you're on a plane and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm missing my kids' birthdays, right? And even when I was home, I felt like I wasn't truly present, because you're thinking about work, or when you're with work, you're feeling about, oh, I should be with my family. And so it was this constant struggle. And it was tough. And I realized, what am I doing with my life? Like, I was missing out on the things that meant most to me in this world. Because I wanted to earn a paycheck, right? In society today, we're taught that's what matters. The definition of success is how much you're earning, what you're doing. And I just really, in the pandemic, paused. And I really thought about, am I happy? You know, like, yes, I'm doing this paycheck, but I started dreading Mondays and Sundays even. And is this the life that I want to live? And the answer was no. The answer was no, that was not the life I want to live. And I'm so grateful for that experience, because it really taught me to be intentional. And that's what I'm so passionate about sharing, is we have this opportunity to create the life that we want. And so luckily I had a side business that was growing. You know, Christy's a member on my team, and we create life-changing work for women around the world. And the more that I was doing that work, the more that I met heart-centered women, the more that I saw our impact was helping women leave the sex trade or not choose which kid eats for the day. I fell in love with what I was doing every day. And so I'm celebrating a year out of corporate America. I went full time. My husband has been so supportive. We went to Guatemala to meet the women, to see our impact, and just, it's been an amazing journey. And as hard as it is to take a leap and believe in yourself and be brave, do it, because that is something I have no regrets. I'm so grateful to be living a life by design. It's been such a blessing.
That was a lot.
Yeah.
And it's good.
I talk a lot, Davey. I know. Let me know.
I love it. That was a lot. I'm absorbing it all. So one thing you said was mama guilt. And I really want to get into, we're going to dive into the masculine and feminine today a little bit. I'm going to get into that with Erin, because I don't know her that well. But what's pretty cool about her is that I think we both kind of get each other, and we don't necessarily have to agree with everything that we say, but we're still going to be friends. Right. And I don't even know why I just said that, but we don't know each other that well, but I want to dive into a few things. But what you said there, which really stood out for me, was, first of all, mama guilt, because that is a huge challenge and something to be looked at and something to be worked on.
Absolutely.
Right? Like, and that's a whole hour and a half just by itself.
At least.
And I also like that you said, you know, you were with a nonprofit, which is great. And at the same time, like, you wanted to get some profit. Mm-hmm. It's okay to make money. Mm-hmm. It's okay, right? Money's not bad. It's the energy around it and what you're doing with it, right? Absolutely. And how you're living the lifestyle and what you're putting out there. That's the important thing. The money is not the problem. And by no means, you know, having a spiritual awakening and then saying, well, I'm happy, I don't need to make money. That's like a spiritual checkout, right? So when I think about that, it's like, it's not cool being poor, right? Like, if your car breaks down, you got to get it fixed. Mm-hmm. Your kid wants something, or you want to go on vacation. It doesn't have to be a 10K vacation. It could be a $500 or $1,000 or $1,500 vacation, but you want to go. You need money to do that, right? We're not just living off, you get what I'm saying. So I think there's a balance between that. And I think that you had the courage to do that. And you also have the support and encouragement, absolutely, right, of your husband. Not like in a, oh, baby, that's cool, you go do your thing sense, like in an empowering, like, yeah, you take care of your shit and we're going to work it out and we're going to make it work here no matter what's going on. Because you know what? I'm being your husband now. Yeah. Because Erin, I might be that one someday that's out and not working, and you might have to support us, right? Whatever it is. Right. And not seeing your kids grow up, right? I always think about like a parent scrolling, derping, as I like to call it, on their phones while their kid just pedaled the first time on their bike. Absolutely. And you missed it, right? Because we're on social media, or because you're flying for some corporation that's making 10 times the amount off of you. It's not to say that they're bad, right? We chose to do that. We both did. But I think that's some really good points that Erin brought up there. And I hope you can relate to that, right? Because that's big shifts here. And Jim says, no margin, no mission. Yeah. I like that one. That's true. And Jim's a giver, right? Jim is always giving. So I appreciate him saying that. Well, when it comes to the great realization and it comes to recognizing what we really want to do, I think you brought up in a very kind way what's happened. And there was a shift that happened in the world. And so much, it's like the reset button got hit in 2020. Doesn't mean that people didn't die. Doesn't mean that we're throwing sprinkles on a shit show, right? What it means is that was an opportunity for all of us to slow down, which really, we're running fast and we're going nowhere. I mean, admit it, right? We're not that important. We're not that successful. And we feel like we are because we're busy and we're running around and nothing's getting done anyway. So, right, let's all slow down. And I think it forced us to do that. Absolutely. It gave us this pause to self-reflect and gave us the opportunity. You know what? I'm going to go as far as to say is we won the lottery. And hear me out on this one, right? So when you're happy and you win the lottery, in money-wise, I believe you're going to be more happy than you are. And what I mean by that is winning the lottery makes you more of who you are. Mm-hmm. If you're already miserable or negative or maybe just not living a sustainable lifestyle, you're going like 80% of the people that win the lottery, you're going to blow the money and you're not going to be happy, right? So whatever type of personality or who you are, I truly believe that when you win the lottery, you just become more of that. You know, so often I hear these stories, well, I never saw that side of the person. It's like, no, that's who they really were. You just never saw it, right? But that's who they really were. So I feel like the pandemic was the same way. Like the true nature, the true essence, the true personality, and the true values came out of everybody, or let's say most people. We like to talk in the meat of the bell curve. Let's say that most of the people just became more of who they already were, right? We had some people change, but most of the people really just became more of who they were during the pandemic. And you might see that with a relationship you're in personally or professionally, right? Or with yourself. And like Erin, I saw it in myself too, where I was sitting on the blue chairs, hanging out with Bob, right? Listening to house music and reading this book, The Alchemist. Have you read that?
I have.
Yeah. Yeah. So that little kid in the book looking for his personal legend as he was traveling through the desert, like that was me, right? I felt like that little kid walking through the desert. And when I was reading this book and recognizing all that was going on, I was like, okay, I don't want to be in the career I'm in anymore.
Yeah.
Like, and the funny thing is in the pandemic, I was crushing it because the industry that I was in just boomed because of the pandemic. And it still is booming because of the pandemic. So I was making more and more money and it's poking me. And because of people that I surround myself with, like you, there was somebody very special in my life named Stephanie, and she encouraged me to jump out of a plane without a parachute and trust that I would sew one up before I hit the ground. And she was right. That was August 7th, 2020. My buddy Joe also said, like, hey, man, like, what's going to be the worst thing that could happen to you, right? You're going to sleep on our couch, or you're going to sleep on Stephanie's couch for a couple months if you need to make do. And I'm like, yeah, that's not so bad.
Yeah.
Like, what's really going to happen, right? The biggest blockade was what was going on in my mind, right? It was keeping me in my comfort zone of making money, having insurance, and knowing that I'm going to have a job the next 10, 15, 20 years. So August 7th, 2020, I made that decision. And then I chose my date, which was October 30th, 2020. Gave my 2 weeks notice before that. Everyone thought I was nuts. And I ended up making the most money in October of 2020, my last month, that I ever made in my career.
I love it.
And that's like the cool part about it, right? And I still walked away from it. So I walked away from it with love and with honor, and recognizing that all the people and all my clients and everybody that I worked with, I was just super grateful that they provided me such a blessing for so many years. And it was just time for me to move forward.
I love it.
Yeah.
I think so many times, Dave, we play small in life, right? Because of that fear, right? Like, what happens if you go out there? And what happens if you fail? What are people going to say? What are people going to think? What if you and you go down all these rabbit holes, and you can prevent yourself from becoming who you're meant to be and do what you're supposed to be doing in this world because of that fear. So cheers to you, my friend, for identifying what your passion is, right? That's the first part, finding your gift, and then leaning into that and investing in yourself, believing yourself to make it happen, because the world needs more. We all have a gift. We want to see it. What's yours? We want to see it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a good question too, right? What's yours? We want to see it. Like, share in the comments, and this is vulnerable stuff, right? Like, share in the comments where are you playing small? Playing small. It's not. Somebody said to me recently, Owen said to me, like, I want to live 100 lives in the next 10 years. And it really started to resonate. Like, what does that mean? Like, relationship wise, experience wise, right? Like, can you even look back in the last week and remember what you did when you think about it? Because it was the same stuff. You drove the same way to go wherever. You kind of did the same stuff every day. And I guess it's okay. I just think I want more.
Absolutely.
I think I want more than that routine. I want to learn how to grow in certain areas, right? And it could be something as simple as just taking a different route to somewhere that you normally go, right? Something that's kind of cool is not using Google Maps if you've been to the place once or twice, and then just not using it and using your brain, right? Brushing your teeth with your left hand if you're right-handed. Like, that sounds super silly, but you're doing something a different way. And what it does is it rewires your brain to do things in a different manner. And again, it's those little wins, right? We don't have to have the big win all of a sudden. There was many, many little wins, and you talk about creating a life of design. So what do you think were those little wins, right? Like, what are some of the things that you do intentionally on a daily basis? So what do you think there were those little wins, those little behaviors, those little priorities that you were doing for years that actually led up to you taking that leap out of corporate and going out on your own?
Yeah. I think there were really 3 things that transformed my life, Dave. I think the first thing was an exercise I did. I invite you guys to do the same, to really create what your ideal day looks like, right? So take 15 minutes and close your eyes, think about from morning until evening, like, what does that look like? Who do you spend time with? What activities will you be doing? How will you be living? Like, what does that look like for you? And at first, the exercise was really hard for me, Dave. I feel like a lot of people don't really think about the things that we love the most and bring more of that into our lives. And so I took some time and I wrote out really what my ideal day looks like. And it included big things, right? But it also included little things like walking my kid to school. It included like reading a book in the morning with my coffee outside on my front porch. Like these things that are so little, and it's the meaning that we give to them, and it's making space for them in our lives. And so I look back a year from now, right, when I left my job in corporate, and I realized, oh my God, I'm living my best life because I designed it that way. So the first day when I walked my kid to school, after the pandemic, we did e-learning and homeschooling and all the things. And then when I was in my company and able to create this life in my own schedule, I walked my kids to school. And Dave, I need to share this picture with you. My 2 girls, my youngest was picking dandelions all along the way. And she's just like literally like giving me flowers, and the kids are holding hands. And I'm just like, wow, this is what life is about. And it doesn't have to be big, fancy anything. It's really being around those that you love and doing the things that you enjoy. So the ideal day was definitely a big thing for me. And then I think too, during the pandemic, I learned that so much about self-care, right? We talk about self-care, and my idea that used to be get a massage and, every couple months and maybe get your nails done or something. No, I think a lot of women in the pandemic learned we do all the things all the time for all the people, and that's not sustainable. We need to build in time for ourselves. And so I started a miracle morning routine. Again, kudos to my husband, who's amazingly supportive.
Miracle morning routine.
Miracle morning. So the first hour of my day, I pour into myself. And I do that not to be selfish. I do that so I can fill up my battery, so that I can be the best mom and the best wife and the best woman in this world. And so that truly was transformational when I realized, like, no matter what happens in the rest of my day, when I make space for myself, then I'm able to be the best version of me. And the third thing was just joy. I used to kind of go through my day, and if something happens that makes me laugh or have fun, that's great. And now I plan it. I literally put joy into my schedule every day. Kids are so good at this. They just, my daughter loves boxes, right? She just creates these things out of boxes, and she like lives her best life with like creativity. And I find that every morning, my family, we have a 5-minute dance party, right? We put a song on and we just like start our day like you do, in movement and sound and music. And those little things, Dave, are transformational, because what happens is when you do it one day, and then the next day and the next day, it's who you become. It's the life that you lead because you're doing this on a regular basis. So craft your ideal day, feed, yourself, your fundamental needs, and then also just create joy, like make space for it in your life.
Did you take all that in? Did you take all that in? Designing your ideal day and what does that look like, and put it on paper. There is a practice to do that also, like finding your ideal partner. Right? Where you actually put down what the person talks about, where you met them, what they look like, what are you doing? So I think visualizing and really planning out, like, what does your ideal day look like? Absolutely. And it could happen. It's not that it could, it does happen. I'm going to say it's supposed to happen. Really. We've just been thrown into this other way, and it's just not sustainable. It's not going to work, right? And it's okay. We're all there. We're doing the best that we can. We're just sharing our stories, and nobody is above or below anybody else. We're always just sharing stories, and you got to do what's best for you, right? So I like how you said that. I also like, I love the story of your daughter picking up dandelions. Like, are we walking throughout our day picking up the dandelions, and not just picking up the dandelions and looking at them and loving them ourselves, but then are we giving them to somebody else, right? Walk through your day, pick up the dandelions, love the dandelion, and then give it to somebody else. Like that right there is just a way to live life. I believe it or not, it makes me think about it. I do my best to bring that in when I'm with my buyer clients in real estate, believe it or not. A lot of them are first-time home buyers. And I really love bringing in that aspect to it. Like it could be fun. It doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to be grueling. We're not in this like fight with other people, right? We can pick up the dandelions along the way. So it's funny you said that. I'm doing my best to bring it into other people's worlds. But I like the morning practice. And that's something you said miracle morning. So you're talking Hal Elrod?
Hal Elrod.
Yeah, yo pal Hal, right? So he has an Achieve Your Goals podcast, which is super cool. And I highly recommend listening to that. Hal Elrod is a badass. He figured out this morning routine based on what so many successful people do in their lives. And mind you, success doesn't look like anything. Success is a feeling. It's a feeling of peace. Absolutely. It's a feeling of joy. It's a feeling of not rushing. It's a feeling of looking in the mirror at the end of the day and being proud and being happy with yourself and how you showed up for your kids and for the marketplace and your clients and your friends and yourself. So you said it's showing up for yourself. When you have that morning practice, when you have that foundation every single morning, it makes a huge difference.
Absolutely. And Dave, I have to say, it doesn't just impact you, it impacts those around you. So part of Hal's exercises got these savers. You guys should go check it out. One of them is A for affirmations, right? And so like literally like, you know, building that belief in yourself and who you are, who you're becoming. So I started doing that with my kids. So at the time, you know, I had like a 3-year-old and, you know, a 6-year-old. And every morning we would like look ourselves in the mirror and we would say these, and I let them choose. I say, you know, tell me some good things about yourself. Look in the mirror.
Yeah.
And my little 3-year-old is like, I'm brave. I'm strong.
Yeah.
I'm independent. You know, she doesn't know what independent probably even means, but
it's okay.
What's so cool, Dave, is one time we were out and she's like doing this obstacle course, climbing up these crazy things. It was like probably advanced for her. So she kept falling. All these bigger kids were doing it and doing it and doing it. And she was getting frustrated, right? Then she stood up and she did her little power pose, right? Her hands on her hips. And she said, I believe in myself. And she climbed right up that obstacle. And that's when I knew the work you do on yourself, it impacts you and your family and your community and the world, right? Like what if we all at age 3 learned to believe in ourselves and kept that belief through daily affirmations and these practices, all these things?
Yeah.
What would be possible in this world, right? It's so cool.
As opposed to people telling us to be quiet.
Yeah.
Or eat your food and then, or be good and we'll love you, right? Like what? The parenting. It's like this is parenting 101. This is life 101. I love it. That is super. That is such a cool reflection. And having that bookend of the day, I think having a morning practice and an evening practice really does set the tone for your life. It really does set the tone. How you begin your day is your day. And what's funny about that is I use part of my morning practice is doing Wim Hof breathing exercises. Love me some Wim Hof. Yeah. And it's funny because when the pandemic dropped, or at least when lockdown happened here mid-March, right? What was funny is like a week later, oh, this is the best. So here's Dave during the pandemic, right? I'm up here by myself. No television, like no news feeds. In fact, I heard about lockdown from a pizza place in my neighborhood. Like I didn't hear about that, like things were actually shutting down on the news. Like it was a word of mouth. Somebody told me about it. And it was like, oh, okay, so we can't come back here next week. Huh. Must be really happening, right? So then I started talking to some more people in that. But the funny thing is about a week and a half into the pandemic, something shows up in my text message, and it was called the Deepak Chopra 21-Day Abundance Challenge. And I'm like, the hell is this, right? Deepak Chopra. I'm like, I know who this guy is, and what is this challenge? Well, it was you would watch a YouTube video, maybe 10 or 12 or 15 minutes, and then there was this exercise afterwards that was really, really powerful, dug really, really deep. And it was for 21 days, right? So now I'm doing this abundance challenge with Deepak Chopra and a few other people, or a couple other people. But then after a certain day, you send it to other people and you get them to do it too, right? No sales funnels in this, no nothing. So now that's what's going into my brain. Speaking of morning practice. And then another week later, this Wim Hof breathing exercise video comes in my text message, and I'm like, well, these breathing exercises. So I start doing these now, right? So what am I doing during the pandemic? I'm doing the 21-day abundance challenge. I'm doing breathing exercises, right? I'm not spinning out on social media. I'm reading books, and that really is a reflection. It doesn't mean that sometimes I didn't do things that didn't serve me, right? It wasn't perfect. It was challenging, like it is for everybody, whether you have kids or not, whether you got sick or not. Like, we all went through challenges. But are you proud of how you showed up? Are you happy with how you did that? And taking some of those, like Erin said, and having that miracle morning, that if anything, I always start with the morning practice when I'm leading or guiding or coaching people on their personal daily habits. Like, to me, that's always the foundation. But like Erin said, you got to do it. And like Erin said, you've got to do it for 2, 3, 4 weeks. And then you start to see it goes into your life. You start applying these things. Well, how is breathing and meditating and outward affirmations and scribing and reading, like, what's that going to do for my day? Trust it for 3 weeks. And the other cool thing is it's free. It doesn't cost anything to do, right? It might cost a little bit to figure out or to have someone guide you or to come up with a system, right? And then lastly, bringing joy. Yeah. Like, is there any other way to even live? Like, going through every single day and not having joy, just doesn't seem sustainable.
Absolutely.
I'm getting tired of, or I was getting tired, I should say, of living that way. And part of that too is you took responsibility yourself, right? You didn't blame others, right? You didn't point the finger at somebody else and say, well, it's because of this why I'm not feeling this way, or why I am feeling this way. You said, you know what? I'm going to take responsibility for my life, and I am going to move forward. I am going to start doing this. I'm going to begin being this mom, being this so-and-so, and stepping into that identity for more than just yourself.
And Dave, I love that you mentioned that, because it's such a journey, right? So it takes work and it takes realization. When you take accountability and own that, and the first level is awareness, right? Like, what are the things, and then owning that. And so there's so much power in that. First, you'll have to look at the things honestly of what you need to work on, right? It's a little bit of a reality check. And then also through that, you realize your power. Like, okay, well, I have the power to impact my day, impact how I interpret situations or ascribe meaning, all that kind of stuff. And so once you realize that accountability piece actually empowers you, because you're able to know that you are in control of these things. And so create whatever you want, right? But it's a journey, because you gotta realize, oh, I don't like that about myself. Oh, it takes a little bit of reality too, to recognize that before you start the change.
Swallowing that pill of self-realization is not easy. No. And it doesn't taste good. You know what that reminds me of? I remember, like, back in the day, first getting into like personal development and kind of like learning about this stuff. And it was like being super excited, right? Like, oh yeah, like, I'm going to try this, and I'm reading this book and it says to do this. I'm going to do all these things. And after like 3 or 4 weeks later, it was like, oh, it's like, this isn't very fun. Like, this isn't like this is not like a fun lifestyle necessarily, right? Like, I think Erin made a great point, right? Like, think of it as like, it's embracing that delayed gratification. Yes. So going for the fun, like, we've all got to have some fun, right? I'm not saying don't live a fun life. What I'm saying is, so many times, probably more often than not, the fun doesn't serve as much as the delayed gratification. And what I mean by that is, you got $100, spending it on something now that has fun is not going to give you long-term happiness as if you were to save or invest it, right?
Yeah.
Eating bad food, whatever bad even means, right now, or doing something else besides going to the gym right now, doesn't sound as it's not fun going to the gym, but afterwards and later, it's not fun necessarily eating broccoli, right? But you feel it later. It's that long-term delayed gratification, and that's really what keeps doing those little things. I think keeps what I would call an optimistic and a positive attitude, because when things happen, not if, but when things happen, when they go wrong, right? You got injured, you lose a job, something happens to your home, I don't know, a dear friend of yours, you lose a loved one, whatever it is, like, how do you react to that, right? And when you're on doing these intentional daily practices, what happens is, like, things don't throw you really. And it doesn't mean you're not in pain, and it doesn't mean that things don't hurt. It just means, how do you deal with it? And how do you deal with it with respect to how you treat others and what your actions are, right? There's a healthy way to do it, versus getting angry at others or doing something rash or lashing out at other people, right? Because that doesn't really get anywhere. So they do have a big impact, and a lot's going on in the personal development realm when you dive into it, right? And it's not all that fun, but you smile about it because it is long-term happiness, and we've talked before about, like, comfort zone, and you are who you surround yourself with. We talked a little bit about distractions, but I wanted to personally bring up, like, what do you think was a few of your major distractions, or what did you notice along the way that you've had as distractions in your life to kind of give you that instant gratification, right? Give you that dopamine hit, take you away from like what you know is good for you to be doing? What are the distractions that always come up for you?
Yeah. I think because I wasn't living in my purpose for so long, right? Doing the things where work wasn't something that lights me up, but was something that drained my energy. And I had young children, still do, right? And you kind of get into all the doing. And so, like you talk about in your live stream, right? This life by default. So I think I was getting stuck into at night watching television with my husband, right? Being on social media, doing these things that don't serve me. They don't help me grow. They don't help me get toward where I want to be in life. They're just time sucks, right? And I think that once I eliminated, I mean, it was a pretty serious, to work a corporate job full time and grow a business and have kids and a husband and be in a pandemic. It was a lot. And so I had to be very intentional and choose how I was going to spend my time. So honestly, Dave, I eliminated television. I watched maybe 2 hours a week like you, right? My husband and I chose like a show or whatever, and that can be what we watched. And I took away those distractions because it's so tempting when you watch one episode. Oh, let's watch one more. And then, hours later, you're like, oh, I'm going to bed late. I'm waking up tired, and then kind of starting your routine already exhausted for the day. And so really just eliminating the technology and those distractions that really didn't serve me, and finding ways to do the things with joy, right? So all the things that you have to do that piled up in the pandemic, dishes. Oh my God, I know you mamas out there get it. Like all the dishes, when we're home all the time with our kids, all the stuff, like those things, right? So listening to a podcast, listening to finding ways to make I guess they're not really distractions, the things you need to do in life, right?
Yeah.
Finding ways to put purpose, to apply a purpose to that, or bring joy to it was really transformational for me. It's the little things, right? The little things.
Those distractions, they're everywhere. The shiny objects.
The shiny objects.
Oh my, they are everywhere. So you talked about mama a couple times.
Yeah.
And I love having females on the live stream because I think that masculine, feminine polarity, I don't know where I'm going with this, but I'm going to go.
Hey, I'm here with you, Dave.
Cool.
We're going.
So there's a masculine, feminine polarity. And I think there's been a lot of challenges. So along with the pandemic, right, to me, there's been, in my opinion, not saying it's true, in my opinion, there's been a cultural renaissance that's been going on for years, and it's been brewing. And a lot of it just came to the surface, right? We were talking about Me Too movement before then, right? way beyond that. But good things came out of that. Some bad things, but good things came out of that. It needed to be recognized what was going on. Black Lives Matter. That's been happening forever, right? Like it came to the surface again, which is good. Like we want it to come to the surface because pushing these things aside, it's not, people aren't paying, right? People aren't being treated the right way. We know that. And with so much that's happened, even from like the feminist movement back in the day, right? Some people will say that the feminist movement at times might have gone a little bit too far. And what I mean by that is boys were not raised to be men could be a part of a result of the feminist movement. And now women in certain age groups complain that boys are boys, that they're not men, right? Like they're just older boys and they were never taught and fostered. And we're not talking toxic masculinity, right? We're talking about true masculine and feminine polarity right here, right? So I get a lot of that. I get a lot of my knowledge from David Dita. He wrote a book called The Way of the Superior Man, and it's all about masculine and feminine polarity. And anytime I had a girl look at that book and like flip through some pages, they're like, oh my gosh, like any guy I know I wish would read this book, right? Because it's really all about masculine and feminine polarity. But you know, so much came to the surface, and now it's almost like, you know, you hear about woke, you hear about cancel culture, you hear about cultural appropriation, right? And microaggressiveness and like all these things that are just going and going. And sometimes it seems like the pendulum has swung like almost too far the other way, where it was going one way for a long time, which was not sustainable and not necessarily good. And we've recognized and realized, and so much has came to surface, and it's almost like it swung and went the other way. So I don't know what I just said there. I said a lot of things, but as a woman, right? Like as a entrepreneur, as a mom, where do we stand, right? Like, where do we stand with men and women as they get along with each other or not get along with each other? It's like I almost feel like it's more confusing for men and women to get along with each other because people are afraid to say things, and it's almost like it's become more confusing. I don't know what that means. Do you?
Yeah. So
I said a lot of things.
Yeah. No, it was a lot of good stuff, right? A lot of, yes, Black Lives Matter. Yes. All these like things. And then I think where you're landing is relationships. Is that what your question is? Like, how are we relating to each other, men and women? And
yes, I think that's where I'm landing at. So much of this, so many things popped up, and like, where is the masculine and feminine relationship, right? Like, where do things go moving forward? How do you see yourself as a woman? How do you see yourself as a mom, as an entrepreneur, right?
I think from a woman's perspective, what I'm noticing is burnout. I'll keep it real, Dave.
Yeah.
I have 3 close friends who are very successful women, and they've recently checked into addiction programs because they've been doing all the things all the time for all the people without getting a break. And I think that's the expectation society's been having on us for quite some time. And so I think maybe that's where you're going with this. You know, we got to climb the corporate ladder. We need to have successful careers, and we need to have a spotless home, and we need to have Pinterest birthday parties, and we need to be the best mom in the world, and we still need to be sexy, and we need to do all of these expectations where in total, it's a lot to stay on top of. And we're also at the same time given these messages that we're small and need to fit in this way. We can't be too much of this or too much of that. And so it's a very tight rope and a very tight line that I think a lot of women are working in. What I'm happy to see, though, I feel like a lot of women are starting to pause and say, enough of this. I'm going to decide who I want to be and what I want to create in this world. And so we're starting to go away from what everyone is telling us that we need to be and become and how we need to act and do. And we're starting to shed that layer into, you know, Glennon Doyle's Untamed, right? Like live big, the Tara Moores of the world, right? Like thinking big, like how are we stepping into? And I think that has, maybe this is what you're talking about, an impact on men too, right? Because once you step into yourself and believe in yourself, and then you don't put up with the crap, or you don't, you know, take all these messages of what you should be or what other people think that you should be doing. So that's kind of a female perspective of what I'm seeing And I have to say, I'm kind of excited about some of the men's stuff I've been seeing. My husband, I'm so blessed to have this amazing man, my soulmate, Jerry. Shout out to you. He's just this amazing man that I think there's this great balance of passion for career, passion in fatherhood, passion for being an amazing partner in life. And I we're very much like, we both contribute to this relationship, right?
Yeah.
So he's doing chores too, doing the things, right? Because we're in this together. And so I think people are different in their perspectives and what the role of maybe a woman or a man should be and all that in their relationship. And I think the truth is, Dave, you got to do what works for you. And you got to find someone that's on the same page with what you want your life to look like. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of good nuggets out of there. I like that.
I hope that was answering your question.
It is.
Okay.
So, barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen. That's what, maybe, for so long, that was like the role that people were pushed into. And what I mean then, because you brought this up too, and I like this. So the pendulum swinging the other way almost too far, is it like, I hear that women at times get dissed and shamed and put down because they want to be a stay-at-home mom. Like, that makes no sense to me. It's like, I get it that was what was expected and women were pushed into that. At the same time, if somebody chooses and they want to be a stay-at-home mom, just like I know women entrepreneurs who are crushing it and bringing in a ton of money, and the dads are staying home. I can name 3 of them right now. The dads are either staying home now or they stayed home and took care of the kids. And it's a great relationship. It's okay, right? Yeah. Either way. But now it's almost like, oh, well, you don't have a career, or oh, you don't, like you mentioned, you don't have this. Yeah, I want to be a stay-at-home mom. Is that okay? It's almost like it shifted too far, and maybe it needs to shift that far to recognize, and then it's going to kind of come back a little bit and not go where it was before.
I think
does that make sense?
It does make sense.
Yeah, okay.
And I think what you're describing, Dave, is that we're not in boxes anymore, right?
Yeah.
And when there aren't clear boxes, okay, you need to be barefoot and pregnant, then there's liberty to decide what you want to be, and that also invites to some degree judgment, right? Because you're not being this or that or that. And I think that's actually okay, because if you want to be barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen, right? Like if that's what your vision is, or if you want to create this company, or if you do whatever it is, I believe we all have gifts that we want to bring into this world.
Yeah.
And so I think that if that's your passion, being this amazing person who raises this family that you're proud of and pouring into them, do that. If you have a vision to create something on a business side, do that. If you're doing both of that, do that. If you want to be a single woman the rest of your life and following your passions, do that. And I think that what we need to perhaps move away from is we've become a very judgmental society in a lot of ways, right?
There we go.
So now that we don't have these boxes that everyone fits in, we're all kind of doing our own thing and then imposing what our beliefs are, or what our picture of a good life is, or a good wife, or a good husband, or whatever that is, onto other people. But it's not about caring what other people think about you. It's about becoming who you want to become, living life the way that you want to live. And so I think more of that is like judgment people are imposing, and the pendulum is, where it is, but you need to break through, because there aren't those clear boxes anymore, and there's judgment regardless. You're going to get haters regardless of what you do. So why not do and become what you love, Yeah.
This is like words that are like Mozart to my ears, right? That's super cool. Yeah, that's really good. Sometimes I think that things are set up to defend themselves. And what I mean by that is like when you start to resist things, you're only fueling it. Like recognizing that something maybe is not right, or you're not aligned with the way something is one thing. Constantly resisting that and starting to point fingers at it, to me, just makes it stronger. Yeah. Like you're putting energy towards that. And to me, it just makes it worse, right? Like, is there a way, recognizing like, this is where we are, this is where we were, and we know that, and we want to make sure we don't repeat certain things, and we want to learn from these, at the same time focusing more on where we want to go. Absolutely. Right? And how we can do that together, whether it's masculine and feminine relationships, right? whether it's just having conversations with managers or bosses or coworkers or employees that work for you, right? Just being open and having honest conversations with people about how you feel and holding people accountable, right? And not being offended if somebody says something that you don't necessarily agree with, because canceling people out, that doesn't do it, right? Canceling people out, you can choose who you want to surround yourself with. You do whatever you want, right? But canceling people out because they say something you don't necessarily agree with, I don't think it serves. I don't think it makes sense. I think it's a very, like you said, it's getting that, it's almost like that tribalism. We're getting like that tribalism that coming up again, where it's like, we're part of this tribe and this is what's bad, so we're all going to fight against this, where Erin's not fighting against anything, right? We more have what's going on in our brains that we've got to deal with on a daily basis, right?
Absolutely, Dave. And I think what you were describing earlier was like this law of attraction, right? So you're putting things into this like negative energy, then that creates more of that, right? And so, yeah, I'm all about building, right? Well, instead of going anti what you're against, like what are you building, right? So in my family, like my motherhood and my marriage, and then also in the world, right? I lead a team of women who we don't just work together, we do life together, right? And so we're supporting each other through these different things, right? And I'm creating work opportunities, and I'm creating, like women around the world can thrive and not just survive, right? Leaving the sex trade or not choosing what kid eats for the day. Like what can you do in your part of the world, right? With your family, with yourself, with your community, and globally. Like how can you build a brighter world? How can you build something that you're proud of and attract more energy around something that's positive and going toward what you're creating versus trying to tear down something else or move against or move away and experience that resistance like you're talking about.
Yeah. I couldn't have said it any better. You summed it up really well. Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate that we are all thinking on our own, right? We're thinking for ourselves. There are so many, as we talked about, influences, distractions, like our attention is really the gold now. Like everybody's vying for it, right? Absolutely. And it's not getting any easier, right? There are changes and shifts that are going on. I truly believe that the next 10 years, there will be as much change and shift that there were in the last 50. Like it's going so fast that to not recognize what's going on in our own lives and in our minds, we're going to wonder 5 or 10 years from now what happened.
Absolutely. And that's why, Dave, I think it's so important to do work inward to determine who you are and what you want to become. Because, my corporate career was in market research. I worked with marketing teams. There's a lot of dollars vying for your attention, right? Yeah. A lot. And so if you don't determine for yourself what's important to you, how you want to live, those distractions, all that stuff, a lot of money is being invested in deterring your attention and kind of creating this life for you, right? Unless you own it first.
Yeah. Unless you own it first. And on that note, you want to say anything else before we go?
Yeah, just thank you so much for this opportunity. I think it's amazing to work on yourself and what you want to create. I'd love to do a little plug for Threads Worldwide. That's our company where we believe in creating life-changing work for women locally, like my team, Christy and others who are on to live work that is purposeful and meaningful, earning an income while making an impact, and also to be able to shop gorgeous pieces that really change lives. And so that's what I'm about, creating positivity and light and love in this world. And Dave, that I love that you're encouraging people to get out of default, right? Like, let's live. We got one life and let's make the most of it for ourselves, for our family, for our communities, and for the world.
I love that. And like Napoleon Hill said back in the 1930s, there is no standing still. Yeah. If you are standing still, you are actually going backwards. Absolutely. Right? So if you are not intentionally moving forward every single day and working on yourself and expanding and growing and sharing your gifts with the world and having life happen through you for everybody around you, your kids, your coworkers, your clients, your friends, just a stranger on the street, right? it's challenging to do at times. We're up in our heads a lot, and recognizing though that as you hear all the time, it is a journey, right?
It's a journey.
It doesn't end, and it's not fun all the time. But do we look happy? Do we look happy? This is what long-term happiness is, right? It's not fun all the time, but it is truly happiness. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Erin. And thank you for being a part of episode 28 of Live Beyond Default Livestream. Next week, I have off, and then I'll be back in 2 weeks with Tyler. And of course, Erin is always welcome to come on again, just as previous guests have also. And until next time, make it a great week.
Awesome.
Thank you. How fun was that?
Good.
Huh?
Good.
Throw on a little of this in the background. Look at you.
Awesome.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. The plant,
I love
Bob
it.
Marley. In fact,
Bob Marley.
if you take a look at yourself, it's almost like the hair.
Ah!
Take a look. It's almost like there. So it's funny when I sit over there too. I notice I'm like, ooh, look, I have hair, right? Oh, it's the greatest thing ever.